Welcome, Steeler fans, to Steel Curtain Network's draft coverage, covering the Steelers' second round pick number 32. I'm Geoffrey Benedict. Here with me, Shannon White and Daniel J. The Steelers select Joey Porter Jr., a guy that most people thought they were going to pick at 17. They end up trading up, getting their tackle, and then at 32, they get Joey Porter Jr. We'll start with Shannon. Shannon, what do you think? How good is it to get a guy that was like thought to be there at 17 to get him at 32? Are you happy with that?
It's just so anticlimactic. I had a whole routine planned out. I was going to dance a jig. I was going to go down the road and, pitch a fit. I was so excited about them trading for extra draft capital. And so, because I thought they could trade back and still get him. But they got him at 32. So I understand totally the need and the pick. I just wanted additional picks because they have, like 4 more depth issues that need addressed. And I was wanting to pick up at least another pick here on day 2, but they didn't get the offer they wanted. Everybody's saying that their demands were high. So I guess that's how much they valued Joey Porter Jr. So he should be an instant upgrade and somebody for Patrick Peterson to mentor. And so I'm excited to see him in the black and gold.
Daniel J., what's your initial thoughts on Joey Porter Jr. being selected here?
I kind of echo some of the same things that Shannon was saying, referencing to, possibly getting some more picks. However, when you have a guy sitting at number 32 that you are possibly thinking about getting at 17, this is a guy that you've done a lot of homework in, extensive homework, especially when you look at Mike Tomlin and his experience with the Porters. They know what they're doing. If this is the guy that they thought they could get at 17, he's sitting there at 32. And I think that price tag is extremely high. When it comes to the Steelers and what they do with their draft, they don't necessarily look at trade picks, trading out. They look at what players they would have selected. And, if this is a guy they had a first round grade on, a guy that they could be a, starter, or maybe perhaps somebody that could potentially be that starter later on this year, across from Patrick P., then I like it. I mean, like I said, it wasn't this. I'll be honest, he doesn't have the splash that I was hoping for when they go out and get a corner. That's one of the things that the Steelers are looking for. This is a defense that has, the most interceptions last season. Joey Porter Jr. has only had 1 interception in his collegiate career. Put that to the side. I think his talents are good, and maybe perhaps he'll get his hands on a few more balls this season. Oh, you're muted.
The pick right after the Steelers got traded. So I'm going to talk about that really fast here. The Tennessee Titans traded up and drafted Will Levis with the 33rd pick. That trade was 33 and the 81st pick in the draft for 41, 72, and a 2024 third. They barely paid anything at all to move up 8 picks. And so if that's the range people were offering, if that's kind of the value you're talking about, swapping, 3rd round picks to go up a little bit, that I'm glad the Steelers didn't trade back. Like that's not worth it to me. Either of you guys think the Steelers should trade it back if it's going to, they moved up. Okay. Let's go with the Cardinals moved back 8 and then moved up 9 in the 3rd and got a 2024 3rd round pick. Either of you guys take that for the Steelers? Would either of you taken that?
No, I was hoping it would be some teams really wanting a shot at Levis or Avila or somebody like that, who I think, is a really good value there at the top of that second round. But no, if that's all that people were willing to offer, you don't run a risk dropping back 8 spots, let's say, or 9, and lose Joey Porter Jr. if that's the number 1 guy left on your board. It had to be an offer. I said today, you get a crazy offer and you do it. If you don't, you take it. So they didn't get a crazy offer, so they picked Porter.
Yep. My thoughts on the pick, Joey Porter. I've said this a couple times now, man. To me, Joey Porter Jr. is like Dick LeBeau's dream cornerback from 2000, like the mid 2000 and the 2010 type season. He can press, he can drop cover three. He's just physical and brutal on receivers. Like that is the guy Dick LeBeau kept trying to draft and kept not being able to find. And Joey Porter Jr. shows up now. I find it interesting. Where do you guys think we are? Because the defense has obviously become much more pass friendly, and the league rules are all wide open on offense. And then you get a cornerback, and one of the question marks on him is the sheer amount of holding on to people. Like he is always in contact with the receiver and kind of plays out that you make contact within 5 yards and then you can kind of keep contact after that. He kind of stretches that as far as he possibly can. Do you think that's something that's gonna work better in the NFL than it did in college? Do you think that's gonna be something that's gonna cause him to get tons of penalties in the NFL? Where do you guys stand on that? We'll go with Daniel.
Well, I think that under Terrell Austin, the former defensive backs coach, he's going to really coach him up and put him in proper positions. I think that his hands and his utilization of his size is going to be an asset. Getting up into receivers off the line and things of that nature and getting them off their timing routes. So I think that it could be an asset, but it's going to be something like it's a good thing that we have Patrick Peterson here that's going to basically mentor him and tutor him and allow the Pittsburgh Steelers to coach him up to get to that point where he needs to be. So I'm not too necessarily concerned about those things. There's going to be a lot of things that these rookies are going to have to get coached up on. But when you look at the intangibles, I know he didn't run the fastest at the combine. However, he was expected to run a little bit quicker than that. And maybe on tape, he does look to seem to be a little bit quicker and a little bit more physical. And so when you have the likes of Jamar Chase and you have Joe Burrow throwing him the ball and his ability to throw it with anticipation, getting them off their time is going to be important.
Shannon?
Yeah, it's something that me and it's funny. I got both of my podcast partners with me tonight, and that's awesome because we've talked about this in depth. When they picked up Patrick Peterson, I mean, we all said they're going to take Joey Porter Jr. I mean, because Peterson, even though he's faster and a better, athlete coming out than Porter, they both have the height, and Porter has that incredible wingspan. And as you already brought up, he's really handsy, and he just knows how to jam and stunt and throw timing off of these routes. And we know that Peterson, as he's gotten older, has gotten even better at little grab here and a little tug there and getting away with it. He's the perfect mentor for Joey Porter Jr. So when they picked up Peterson, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're definitely going to take Joey Porter Jr. And I was fine with that. But I got a question for both of you guys. Now that the draft's here and the first round came and went, when you said and you watched all the cornerbacks that's been taken and those that are still left on the board, why did Porter fall to the 32nd pick, in your opinion? Because to me, if you look at it, I think there is concerns from some of the defensive coordinators about his speed. Because he is going to, he is man or zone capable, but will he struggle if he has to get too handsy to keep from getting burnt? To me, those questions about that top end speed and a little bit being a little tight in hips is why he dropped.
I agree. Like I said, he was expected to, or he and Joey Porter Sr. expected him to run a lot quicker at the combine. When he ran a 4.4 and a 4.5, it was a little bit disappointing. And you look at some of the receivers in the game that the offense is in the NFL, today's NFL game, there is a lot of speed on the receiver side. There's a lot of, the having to have that ability to move around back and forth. So that is a possibility as to why he fell and perhaps why other cornerbacks went before him. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right when it comes to that. I think it's his speed. It could be also, maybe perhaps his his size. I know I saw in the comment section usually some corners over the 6 foot aren't necessarily do well. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if it is, then that could also play a toll with his speed and that being a situation as well, and also the grabbiness. That was a pretty big thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be his speed as much as quickness, because especially when you're 6'2", you're not turning on a dime like a Cam Sutton can. You don't see the hips with Joey Porter Jr. like you see in the Cameron Sutton, who could mirror people and really not engage physically with them. But Joey Porter Jr. is a guy, he's going to get handsy on you and redirect you, and he's going to use the receiver to run his own defense. Like if he's got a hand on you and you turn, you're bringing him with you. That's kind of how that's kind of how he assists it. The same thing Joe Hayden used to do, which is why one of my comparisons is if I'm seeing stuff, people talking about scheme fit. If you go back and you think of 2019 and 2020 Steelers, Joey Porter Jr. is going to be used like Joe Hayden was. He's going to be a kind of a cover two-ish kind of guy who can drop deep, can cover short, but probably is not going to be asked to do both a lot if the guy's a really good receiver. If he's on Jamar Chase or someone like that, you're not asking Joey Porter Jr. to mirror him the entire length of the field. He's either going to have like shallow and inside or, run up the sideline with him and keep him deep. But if it goes to the inside, he's got help there. There's going to be something like that, right? This is how he's going to be used. I think he's going to be used up near the line of scrimmage because he's a much better run stopper. Steelers like that on the defensive left, offensive right side. And I think that's where he's going to play. And you're going to see Patrick Peterson kind of play the Cameron Sutton, Steven Nelson side of the ball. So that's kind of how I view it. And one of the things I actually think Joey Porter Jr. makes sense for is when we start talking about Jamar Chase matchups. Because Jamar Chase is a very physical receiver. He's a guy who's going to get into you and start with you too. He likes to mix it up. And so when you get a physical receiver, as we saw with Juju Smith-Schuster, as we've seen with Chase Claypool, when you have a physical receiver, defensive backs get away with being more physical with them. Do you guys think this is going to be a good matchup? Do you think there's a chance that we're going to be talking about Joey Porter Jr. versus Jamar Chase for the next 3-4 years as being a big time matchup that's closer to even than just can Joey Porter Jr. hang with Jamar Chase at all?
Well, it better be. Yeah, we better. I mean, here's the thing, guys. He went 32nd. Nobody was really excited about coming up and getting that pick and offering them the deal they wanted. So he's always going to be graded and judged by the guys that went before him, but especially the guys that go after him.
Mm-hmm.
So he has to be a home run. I said all along, the Steelers have to hit a home run with that pick. Now, the totally Steeler thing to do is to sit there and hold it and then take the guy you was going to take anyway. I'm not shocked that it happened, but the Steelers have desperately need a quarterback one. For this defense to take it the next step, they need health from Watt, from Hayward, and Fitzpatrick, and they needed an upgrade or two. Well, I think they've done it on the inside linebacker. They have to get a true cornerback one to start grooming under Peterson. So as long as Porter pans out that way, I think he's got a lot of Ike Taylor in him. I don't see him ever being a ball hawk. Even if, as he learns the game and starts playing to that length, I still do not see him being a ball hawk. My concern is, I've said all last year, I wanted him to get faster in the secondary, more versatile, where they can mix up man, go zero coverage, all those things to be ultra aggressive. I don't think Porter gives them that. So there's still needs on that defensive side of the ball, and they're going to have to do it with 2 picks the way it is right now, and then only 2 tomorrow. So, we're going to need some more Omar Khan and Andy Waddle magic probably after the draft to see, who they can find.
And for me, I I think that Shannon's absolutely right. He has to be a guy that can make it so where people are looking at that matchup of Jamar Chase versus Joey Porter Jr. Because if it's not, man, it's going to be a rough time for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But with the upfront pressure and healthy defensive line, and hopefully maybe the Steelers acquiring a defensive lineman in the draft, perhaps maybe that pressure will alleviate some of the issues that could occur in the passing game and kind of cover up some of those things until he's capable of being that guy. I'm not sure if he's going to ever be that guy. Like I said, I'm kind of concerned about the shiftiness and the quickness, like you mentioned earlier. When you have some of these route running receivers and, Jamar Chase can definitely run routes, it's going to be difficult. And those things are going to be the one, that's going to end up being the deciding factor, whether or not this is going to be a favorable matchup or not. If he can't learn to or figure out how to use his size as an advantage to maybe not have to be as quick and twitchy, then perhaps maybe things will work favorable. But he's definitely going to have some work cut out for him. This isn't going to be a easy task for him, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. The Pittsburgh Steelers have been known as a team that have had struggles drafting cornerbacks, and so people are going to look at this as is this going to be another guy that the Steelers failed to draft appropriately, or is this going to be a guy that's going to break that, that stereotype from the Pittsburgh Steelers?
All right, and last little bit before we go here, we got a couple minutes left on our little spiel here. What do you guys think for the next pick? Where do you think the Steelers are going to go if they stay put at 49? What position do you think are you looking at, Shannon?
They have so many needs. I would love a defensive lineman, and I know you're on board with that. But who? I mean, there's picks. Right now we don't know who's going to be there because that's a little bit down the line. They're actually at the point right now. You're just looking truly BPA, best value, with that 49th pick. Maybe even trade back a little bit there even to acquire. You really don't want to go past that 5th round though, because it really drops off. It really drops off after the 4th. So that's why I wanted as many picks in the first 4 rounds. So, but I'm just going to say best player available, and it's going to depend on how it falls.
Yeah, for me, I think it's definitely going to be best player available. I think could it be a tight end? Mike Tomlin emphasized tight end when in his press conference. There's been a few that have fallen up to this point. Will there be 1 or 2 available? Washington hasn't been selected, right? I haven't been keeping the track.
No,
on it.
He hasn't.
Maybe perhaps
they got Sam Laporta and Michael Mayer from Notre Dame are the only 2 tight ends that have been picked this round.
And so maybe perhaps if Washington is there at 49, maybe the Steelers make a pick there. Maybe they finally do move back to acquire a 3rd or a 5th or a 6th. Because I don't foresee the Steelers going from 80 to 240. That's a pretty big. I don't think that's. I don't see that happening. But so this might be the position where they move back a couple slots just to get a 5th rounder or something like that. But I got a question for you guys real quick. With Joey Porter, do you think maybe any of these guys, maybe like an Ahkello Witherspoon, becomes trade bait for a 6th rounder for a 5th round pick? What do y'all think?
Ooh, I don't see the Steelers trading out any of those defensive backs. I think they're going to go into camp with a ton of them because there's a lot of spots that just aren't. There's a lot of roles in the defense that I think are kind of up for grabs. And like you said, Ahkello Witherspoon, I don't know if we get anything for him after how he got benched last season. So it'd be interesting, but I don't see it.
Got you.
Well, all right. We are about 10 picks out from the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting again. We're going to say goodbye for our part here. Make sure you're staying tuned. Make sure you're keeping with us as we go through this draft process. We'll have articles, film breakdowns, all kinds of evaluation on the website behindthesteelcurtain.com. And make sure you're staying tuned right here to the Steel Curtain Network for all the up-to-date breaking news podcasts, as well as these roundtables after every pick. So however many more there are, we're going to be around. So make sure you're checking that out. As always, have a great draft, guys, and let's go Steelers.